Good, good.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Now, excellent. That's all good. Thanks. Now, look, I'll just run through the acknowledgement. For example, we acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. Now, what we'll do after this one's cleared, here we go. What we'll do is start with a quick introduction from me first, I guess. So I'm Tony Bosworth, as many of you know. I'm editor of Hawkesbury Post and moderator for this forum. We've got the candidates here who are here today up there at the moment, just so everybody can see who's here. We'll also have a slide on very soon about code of conduct during the meeting, obviously. So just bear with us with that. It's the first time we've done this, so it's an exciting thing. Here we go. So a code of conduct, look, basically we're trying to encourage participation and interaction, of course, but also operate as a safe and inclusive space. We expect everyone to adhere to the code of conduct, which you can find at this email address here through Facebook. Look, basically we ask that you respect people, enable participation by all attendees, stay on topic, keep it safe. If anyone is deemed to have breached the code of conduct, Forum reserves the right to remove the person from the webinar. Virtually, I suppose, we'll remove them. So there we go. But I think we all know what we need to do there. Also, there's some logistics information here, which you can all quickly read through. But basically, you've been sent Zoom links or registered attendees. All the candidates will appear. We've got that up. A series of pre-forum questions from the hosting groups have been sent to the participating candidates before the event, just to give them a bit of a heads up and allow them to think those through. And following a short welcome here, the candidates will introduce themselves. Then I will ask 6 questions which have been posed by the hosting group, so they're community groups, as most of you know, and each candidate will have an opportunity to answer. Once we've done that, the next questions will be taken from attendees who've registered via the Q&A function in the webinar, and I'll ask questions of the candidates as well. These questions will be moderated, so no dramas there. Of course, do remember that we're recording so that we can let people watch this afterwards and have a bit of a record of it. And that's via the forum Facebook page. And for those of you not registered to attend, we're also live streaming, which is good. And so on our Facebook page, and also it's going to be on YouTube as well. So that's all good. And okay, so basically what we'll do now is ask some questions through the Q&A box. The Q&A box will be moderated. Oh, sorry, this is for folks who want to put questions in. And the questions will then be put to the candidates by myself. We'll get there, Okay, here we are. Okay, so I think we can begin. So let's just have a look at what we should be doing now, folks, and get that all sorted out. Now, basically, okay, so basically what we'd like you to do, if you could, is give 30 seconds each on who you are and, you know, just a bit of information about yourselves. So if Shane Durack from Shooters, Fishers and Farmers can go first, if you're ready, Shane, just a quick sort of, you know, brief overview of yourself. That'd be brilliant.
Yep, I'm ready. So my name's Shane Durack. I'm a member of the Shooters Party. We are a party, but we're a grassroots party, which means that we're made up of everyday community members. So I'm a lifelong local. I was born in Windsor. I've been a part of the community for nearly 50 years. We're honey producers, 3rd generation honey producers, and we've been pollinating the local area for since the early 60s. I ran in the 2019 state election because I wanted people to be heard again. I wanted people to know that elected members are there to represent the voice of the people. And I'm running for council because I think that council should be the heart of where we come together for the enrichment of the Hawkesbury and its community.
You want to unmute Tony.
What's going on there? Technology, people, technology. Preeti, if you could give a bit of an overview of your group and yourself, that'd be brilliant.
I don't think Preeti's on.
Oh, is she not? Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Is she here?
We will come back to her hopefully a bit later then. Mary Lyons Bucket, would you like to talk for 30 seconds?
Thank you. For 30 seconds. Okay, thanks, Tony. Thank you to the organisers for putting this on. This is great to have this opportunity. That's really good. I'm Mary Lyons Bucket. I've been on council since 2012 and I was the mayor for 2 years and I've been the deputy mayor for 3 years. I do this not for any other reason except because I'm passionate about the Hawkesbury and its community, and there's I think we're at a very crucial time in its future where we have to really make some hard decisions about its strategic direction, and I just love the people here and I love being able to take their voice into the wider arena and to be able to speak up for them and to preserve what's valuable to them. Thank you.
Pete, I have to mute myself again. If you could give us 30 seconds or so, Pete, that'd be...
Sorry, okay, that's me. Yeah. My name's Peter Reynolds.
Good.
I've been a councillor this last term, which is now just over 5 years, due to COVID. I'm a local boy, descended from 13 convicts, 1 drum corps, and a Wiradjuri lady. I came to council not via the political system, but via the community organisations and community activism. When I realised that the community was not being heard and was not being given due consideration above the party politics of the time. I agree that we're at a nexus, almost like a crossroads at the moment, where the future of the Hawkesbury and the nature of the Hawkesbury will depend on the next term and possibly the term after, as far as the development and the rural character of the Hawkesbury that we all know and love. And I'm here to help the community fight for that. So yeah, thanks. You're on mute again, Tony. You're on mute.
Yeah, I'm just there. I know. I have to keep unmuting it all the time. Just so we don't get feedback on it, so we have to turn it off when somebody else is speaking. So is John Ross on here at the moment? Is John's next if he's here?
No, not yet.
So look, fair enough. Okay. Tim Reimer, can we go to you if you don't mind? And if you could give us 30 seconds or so, that'd be brilliant.
Hi, my name's Tim Reimer. I'd like to thank all the Hawkesbury community groups involved and moderator Tony for putting this together. I'm 22 years old and I'm the son of Heidi and Jamie Wilson, a photographer and a bike mechanic. I've really been blessed to be born and raised in Bilpin, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the locals, or Group F, to listen to the community and to serve the needs of people of the Hawkesbury. Thank you.
Excellent. That's very good. Thank you for that. Danielle Wheeler, could you give us 30 seconds, please?
Thanks, Tony, and thanks everyone for putting this together. It's been particularly difficult, I think, with COVID, but it's really important that people get the chance to see the people who want to represent them. I think we need to be willing to put ourselves in front of you and take your questions. I want to acknowledge that we're on the unceded land of the Burrawong people of the Darug Nation and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'm the sitting Greens councillor. I have been since September 2016. The Greens are a party that value grassroots democracy, and the people that we put forward for council are chosen by our local group and accountable to our local group. I'm a scientist and a permaculture teacher. I live at Wilberforce with my family. I want to continue to push for heritage and environmental protections, the revitalisation of our town centres, further work on our wetlands, and continued work on social justice and inclusion issues, as well as further tightening our planning and compliance legislation. This is what's kept me occupied for the last 5 years. I'd like a chance to continue to do so. Tony, it looks like Preeti is here in the chat, so she might need a link to bring her across.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. What we'll do while she's getting organised there, let's go to Nathan Zamprogno because he's here. And Nathan, if you could give us 30 seconds, that'd be brilliant.
I'd be delighted to. I've been one of your councillors for the last 5 years. I first stood for council in 1995, so I've been in this game for a very long time. It's been the most singular honour of my life. I'm a teacher by training. The subject of my master's research was critical thinking and ethics in the national curriculum. And, you know, when I came to council, I wondered what I brought, what I could bring to the table. And it was that sense that, you know, to engage well, we need to have a different approach. And if there's one thing that I want to be known for, it's that I've taken a very distinct approach in communicating with the broader community about the issues that come before council that affect them, and in which they are entitled to know and be informed and be heard. That's my 30 seconds.
Excellent, that's good. Thanks very much for that. We'll just see if Preeti is on now. Oh, excellent. Okay. So Preeti, if you can hear us there, if you'd like to give us 30 seconds, well, welcome, first of all, I should say. If you could give us 30 seconds on, you know, why you're standing, basically, a little bit about yourself, that'd be brilliant.
So hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I was trying to figure out, we've got ladies, so yeah, that's good. Look, I have no political background. I just know how to work. That's what I've done all my life. I'm standing because I'm passionate about my community. I'm a lay person. I have not, as I said, I'm not political at all. I come from a business background, and I'm also a legal professional, a mediator. So I listen to people all day in and out, you know, and there's issues that I see in community, which I feel need to be dealt with. I feel that we need people who can engage with the community in a meaningful manner, in saying that we have no other agenda but to just literally help them, guide them, and get their voice communicated to the relevant stakeholders. So yeah, with my business background and legal background, here I am as a candidate. I have lost you. I can't hear you, Tony.
I should have unmuted myself again. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, sorry.
I know. Well, we hear this, don't we, at council meetings all the time, with councillors forgetting to unmute themselves. So I'm in fine company, I feel there. Anyway, all good. Look, this first question is about preferencing. And basically, okay, so I'll read it out. What I want to know from each one of you is who you are preferencing, if anybody, and why you've made those choices. It's a bit of a long question, this, with many parts. How many members of your group also belong to political parties? Because, you know, obviously people think that's important and it can play a role. And which ones are those political parties? And because the major parties do insist their members vote for them when it comes to choosing a mayor, which could be an issue, obviously, you know, once people are elected to council. So, I mean, I can go through that again, but hopefully you've got that sort of basic thrust of that idea. So if we could start with Shane again, we'll just try and go through it in the order we went through before. So Shane, what's the position with you then in terms of preferences? Oh, you've got to unmute yourself there, Shane.
How's that? Okay. We're doing a preference recommendation. Firstly, our first preference is with the Small Business Party. Eddie Dogramachi is the lead candidate of the Small Business Party. He's genuine, he's passionate, he's part of the community. He runs around quite crazily and he's busy and he's got plenty to say, but I know that when you grab a hold of Eddie, he will listen because he genuinely cares. And further, I've done a preference with Nathan Zamprogno because I think, well, we can see that Nathan votes against the Liberals at times when he feels that it's appropriate to do so. And when he does, people want to high-five the guy and give him a hug and say he's a great bloke. But now, as a result, he's broken away from the party and people want to turn their backs on him. Like I say, I think council's a place where we should come together and work together for the enrichment of the community. And Nathan and I and Eddie, we've put our hands up to work together. We've done it first in the hopes that we can all come together and work for the enrichment of the community and council. And I want to say first and foremost that it's a recommendation and the voter is the one who's in charge of preferences, which I think it's important to say.
Yep, that's great. Thanks for that. Good points there. I should just ask, and I think I know the answer to this, but just so everybody knows, are any members of your party members of other political parties? Of your candidates, I should say. You're on mute again. Yeah. So.
Yeah, here we go. They're all my candidates are members of the Shooters, Fishers and Farmers Party. I want to highlight that Alan Dogramachi is the son of Eddie. But first of all, our party's got a lot of young members, and I think younger members seem to attract each other. Eddie's ticket was already full, and Alan comes from a passionate family. They're political and they're passionate. And I think it's honourable to Eddie that he's let Alan chase his own political direction.
Yep, brilliant. Thanks for that. Preeti, if you could answer that question as well. So basically, who are you preferencing and why have you made those choices, and how many members of your group belong to other political parties?
So we are not preferencing anyone. We are not part of any political party. We do not come from any political background. None of my group members do. We're all mix of professionals, like we have got mechanical engineer, we've got employers, we've got employees, we've got a primary producer, we've got Indigenous Australian, we have culturally and linguistically diverse background, business people. So we're nothing to do with politics at all, ever. So the only politics we know is what we watch on TV or, yeah, pretty much that's all. Yeah. That's
good. That's good. Excellent. Thanks for that. Mary Lyons Bucket, if you could answer that as well. Who are you preferencing?
And I echo what Shane said in that it's a recommendation, and of course what we really urge people, most of all above everything else, is to really consider who they're voting for and not to waste their vote when we're so fortunate to have the luxury of voting freely in this country. It's optional preferential voting, so the preferences don't automatically go. You know, you have to still do the preferencing. It's not like the state and federal government where there's different preferential systems. So we are preferencing independents only. We're preferencing the Pete Reynolds ticket and Preeti Karan, and our group discussed this and they were adamant that they did not want to preference a political party or members of a political party. In saying that, we firmly believe that the major political parties do not represent to the, you know, by letting us know who the people are. On the flip side of that, I would recommend, you know, somebody who works for the community but is in a party such as Danielle Wheeler, who is a hard-working councillor. I think that people should consider voting for the minor parties where they know who the people on the ticket are.
Excellent. That's good. Thanks very much for that. Pete Reynolds, could you give us your take on it?
I wish we had longer than a minute, Tony. First of all, nobody on our ticket is a member of a political party. I have to point out, because there's no doubt going to be brought up, that I joined the Labor Party to contest the 2019 state election because I wanted a crack at Dominic Perrottet. You know, he was a schoolyard bully and I just wanted to have a swing. And I had first-hand experience of my major party membership being used against me to force me to vote for a Labor mayor when I believe that all mayors should be independent. I stood my ground and I was put on a charge, and ultimately I resigned my membership rather than than cave in. In this election, I'm preferencing Danielle, and not because she's a member of the Greens, but because she's probably one of the greatest warriors the Hawkesbury community could ever have. And after Danielle, we're preferencing Mary. Now, I am really surprised at the number of people who believe that candidates have control over non-voter directed preferences. So many people believe that, for example, Shane's preferencing Eddie and Nathan, that if they just put one for Shane, then their preferences automatically go to Eddie and Nathan, and they don't.
Yeah, Pete, we'll have to cut it a bit short. We'll have to cut it a bit short because it's going way over the time.
Sorry, Tony, I forgot to say no members of any political party in our ticket.
You're on mute, Tony.
Yeah, got it. Okay. This is technology, isn't it? Wonderful thing. Sorry, look, I was just going to say, we'll just have to be careful with the time and look, do try and keep it to a minute. I mean, it's all valuable stuff that you're saying, sure, really is. But let's, if we can keep it a bit tight, that'd be brilliant because we've got a fair bit to get through. So thanks, Pete, for that. That was very good. Now, have we got John Ross here actually yet? He doesn't appear to be here. Okay, well, we'll just carry on then. Tim, if you could give us basically your take on it. So basically, look, who are you preferencing as a group? And also, why have you made these choices? And how many members of your group are members of a political party?
Thanks, Tony. So none of the candidates of Group F are members of a political party, and we're not choosing to preference any other group in the upcoming election. We respect that the people who might vote for us as their first preference may wish to vote for other candidates or groups, and we really encourage voters to exercise that right. I think the power of your vote comes from not being restricted to one person or party. So if it's your plan to use all 79 of your preferences from the person you support the most to the person who, you know, the less words spoken about, the better, do it.
Excellent. That's good stuff. Thank you. Danielle, what's your take on it? Are you guys preferencing anybody?
Yes, we are. We're preferencing Mary as our number 2 and Pete as our number 3. Sorry, it's just started to really bucket down here. So if I vanish, that's the marvels of the internet. So we've chosen preferences. We've chosen to preference independents who share our values and that we know will work hard. And having worked with Pete and Mary for the last 5 years, I trust that they will act in a similar fashion to the way we would expect to act. Not always, but fairly closely. We preference on policy. We don't do deals. We don't do swaps. We preference purely on policy. It's really important that people realise that they are in control of their own preferencing. Don't waste your vote. Don't pick just one and then leave it. That's called exhausting. If your pick doesn't get a quota, your vote is lost. So put one and then pick the second person that you like. Do at least 3. It's unlikely much more than 3 flows at a local government election. And it's not like the Senate. No one rings me up at the end of Saturday and says, you've got this many leftover votes, where do you want them to go? You know, you get to choose that. You're in control of this.
That's good. And also with your party, clearly you don't have people who are members of other political parties.
No, the Greens constitution doesn't allow you to be a member of more than one party at a time. You're a Green or that's it.
Yes.
And if you campaign against the Greens, you don't get to be a Green either.
Yeah, fair enough. That's great. Thanks for that. Nathan, if you could give us your take on it as well. I'm interested because obviously I know the answer to this, but people watching may not. I'm interested in how many members, how many of your candidates are members of a political party, as well as, you know, standing as an independent, but also obviously the preference question, who you are preferencing.
I know, and it's been a subject of considerable interest, so I'll be concise. I am, of course, I was elected as a Liberal 5 years ago, and I am standing as an independent at this election. I am still a member of the Liberal Party and was given permission to stand as an independent. The Mayor, of course, called me this morning and said that I've been a very unfriendly independent and says that I'm at risk of being evicted from the Liberal Party for speaking my mind. Now, here's the thing. You know, I prove the earnestness of my independence is that I'm prepared to put that on the line because I'd rather keep my dignity and my integrity. It is true that number 6 on my ticket, well down, is a young fellow, very gently spoken, articulate man by the name of Zed Sparks, who's a member of the Young Libs. And I discovered late in the process that James Jackson, who's number 4 on my ticket, is a member of the Lib Dems, which is often a refuge for disgruntled Libs, but he can speak for himself. But the thing is, I do want to assert in earnest the independence of my ticket, and that in fact, you know, to the extent that I suffer any grief politically, it's precisely because I assert my independence and that I'm not fearful of criticising even my colleagues if I feel that there's good cause to.
Yeah, thanks for that. Just one quick follow-up on that, because if you're elected and you're still a member of the Liberal Party at that stage, and there's a mayoral contest, and the Liberals, for example, look like they're going to get a mayor, and you do have to vote with them, don't you, under the Liberal Constitution?
If I remain a member of the Liberal Party, you are correct. I emphasise the word if.
Okay, that's fine. No, thanks for that. That's really really good and clear. Thank you. Okay, look, we'll move on to question 2 then. This is a question from Hawkesbury Environment Network, who are one of the groups who are part of this forum and have helped set it up. Okay, so look, what is each candidate's view regarding the environmental importance of the Hawkesbury local government area, and what measures would you like to see introduced to protect our environmental assets? So if we could go, because we're changing the order around a bit, just to make it more fun, really. So Mary Lyons Bucket, could you sort of give us your take on that?
Sure, I could. Of course, our environment is really important, and it's one of the major things that draws people to this area because it's so unique and special. So probably the priorities are the protection of wetlands, waterways, bushland, a preference for retaining our biodiversity rather than offsets becoming the norm. We've got the potential to protect some of our areas, of course, by using them for other people to offset against. Not that I promote offsetting, because I don't, but I think that when other areas are losing so much vegetation, we can help out there. We need our strategic planning to identify across the entire local government area the vulnerability of our ecosystems and the mechanisms that we can put in place to ensure environmental protection is not left as a minor consideration, but rather fundamental to any further growth and development. We need specifically to ensure wildlife corridors are protected. We've lost massive amounts of flora and fauna. We've seen devastation from fire, from flood. We need natural solutions to protecting our river and ensuring the integrity of its banks against erosion, both from flooding, but also from watercraft and so on. And I think that you can see Richie Benson on our ticket, who is an absolute champion of the environment, and he could probably say a lot more about this than I could. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. That's good. Nathan, could you give us your take on that one?
Certainly. Look, I proceed from this premise that to be a good Conservative, and I think of myself as a good Conservative, means an obligation to be a good conservationist, and that environmentalism is not the exclusive province of left-of-centre politics. We all love our natural environment and want to see it thrive. Now, one of the privileges that I've had in this term is to be the chairman of the Hawkesbury River County Council, which is one of the bodies to which Hawkesbury Council is party to, and it has a responsibility for waterway health and weed control. But beyond that, it does a lot more in partnering with various communities to be good stewards of their land and to look after the environment. And I launched an initiative called the Shaltop Forest Initiative up in Bilpin in the aftermath of the fires, where we are partnering with individual landowners to look at the way that the ecology is rebounding. So, you know, I think of myself not as a closet greenie, I'm outspoken in terms of wanting to preserve what's wonderful and unique about our ecologies and in calling out the threats such as overdevelopment to them.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for that. I should mention, folks, I've been warned we're going over time a little bit. So, again, let's just try and keep them fairly tight. But all the things you're saying are brilliant, really good. Thanks for that. So if we could get on to yourself, Danielle, on this issue, that would be brilliant.
Sure, thanks, Tony. So, look, I don't think it's impossible to overstate the importance of the environment, both as it defines us as a community. And one of the things that we know is that people in the Hawkesbury are defined by our place, and part of that is our green space and our environment. Our biodiversity, it has value for climate mitigation and heat mitigation, both increasing issues for us, and also determines our food and water security and our quality of life. And we learnt that in COVID, that those green spaces, the ability to just go for a bushwalk in what's effectively our backyard is incredibly important. What we've also seen, though, is that we don't do enough to keep it clean. And so, as well as a lot of environmental protections through our planning legislation and through better education and through funding for repair and restoration, what we also need is much better attention to cleaning up. So litter, waste removal, and also teaching people that it's not reasonable to go to one of these fantastic natural spaces and leave all the crap behind as well. Riparian zones are big, and connectivity between, Mary was talking about wildlife corridors. The current state legislation is such that if you lose connectivity between areas of biodiversity, the biodiversity value is lost, their protection is thus lost, and you can therefore lose the protection of that site.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. That's good. Now, Shane, yeah, it'd be interesting to see what you think about this. And from a personal point of view, I don't know a vast amount about your party. What is your take on this situation, this issue about environmental importance of the Hawkesbury?
Well, I believe that protecting the Hawkesbury's environment is paramount. We're a very unique area within the Sydney Basin, a river city where the mountains meet the Hawkesbury and the Nepean River. In my state election, I was very passionate about looking after the Hawkesbury River and the quality, the water quality, and protecting the wildlife that live within it. We even have, many people don't know, we even have platypus colonies in South Creek, which was still there up until last flood. I imagine they're still going, but we need to do whatever we can to preserve the environment and look after the ecosystem. Very passionate about it, and I think liaising with specialty groups within the area that are passionate also about that will also help to protect and preserve what we've got. It's why we live here, so we definitely want to look after it.
Okay, good. That's brilliant. Thanks for that, Shane. So, Tim, if I could ask you the same question. One thing I should ask you, actually, because I didn't ask you before when we were talking about preferences, and I was asking that question about whether any of your group were members of any political parties. Now, somebody has mentioned to me that they think you were a member of Labour at some stage, or still are?
I was, before I resigned, yes.
Excellent. That's good. Thanks for clearing that up. Brilliant. So if you could talk a little bit about the environmental importance of the Hawkesbury, as far as your group are concerned, that'd be brilliant.
No worries. So I'm a young person. It's hard to hide it. I'm not here for myself. I'm here to protect the environment and for those that are younger than me. 2/3 of the Hawkesbury is bush, so the environment is the most vital part of the job. It's really essential to acknowledge that the climate crisis worsens the dangers we face with fires and droughts. I think we need to fund and implement stronger measures to reduce our emissions and also to better equip those on the front line who have to face and deal with the impact the most. So Group F would propose a climate emergency plan that would detail the actions of the next 4 years that we'd take. We really want to lead the state in solar, land care, and organic growing. Hawkesbury Council thinks that reaching net zero emissions by 2050 is good enough. We don't.
Yeah, I think it's 2030 now, isn't it? Haven't they agreed, the council recently? But I'll take your point. Yeah, good point. Okay, that's good. All right, thank you for that, folks. Let's move on to question 3. Now, this one is from Bell's Line of Road Community Action Group, or BLORCAG as they're known. How will you work with your fellow councillors to ensure that any future changes, and they say developments they're focused on here, in our area will improve disaster resilience and livability whilst maintaining the unique and important characteristics of rural amenity, agriculture, community and heritage? So I guess what they're really asking here is, can development, should development coexist with all of those things we take for granted? So if I could ask Nathan that first of all.
Excuse me, Tony. Excuse me.
Sorry, Mary, sorry. I'm looking at the wrong box. So Mary, yes, sorry, go on.
No, don't ask me. Pete and Preeti didn't answer that last question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. All right, okay, let's just go back to that one then. Sorry about that. Preeti, let's go to you on that environmental question. Your view regarding the environmental importance of the Hawkesbury local government area, what measures would you like to see introduced to protect our environmental assets?
I mean, as we all know, Hawkesbury is one of the most significant river systems we have here, and it's imperative that we take extra care and manage and protect our waterways. I mean, we must prevent or at least minimize environmental impact by managing development through full compliance, better information availability for people, and public consultation. As far as what measures I would like to see at this stage, I would like to see more action at the local level, perhaps by hosting workshops, community meetings and training programs, which encourage to engage the community and raises awareness of this important issue and the importance of keeping our waterways clean and protected and preserved.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And yeah, Pete, if you wouldn't mind having a go at this one. Well, sorry I didn't ask you before. Missed you off the list there. But yeah, so basically about this, the environmental aspects, really.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. The Hawkesbury's environment is incredibly precious, not only to the Hawkesbury but to the nation. And you know, the environment, the river, the rural amenity is why we live here. I'm really concerned for the wetlands, especially Baker's Lagoon and Bushell's Lagoon, with the pressure for sand mining. We know they're under threat. We know that there is a sand shortage to supply construction materials for Sydney, especially down around Badgerys Creek. It's been earmarked for extraction for some time. And there are now a number of alternatives, including in the short term, marine sand, and then, of course, increasing viability of recycled materials. And I just want to point out, for example, that the Middle East, you know, like Dubai and Qatar or whatever, they have to import sand to construct buildings, to develop, because their sand is not good enough. So it really concerns me that we will see another Penrith Lakes on the lowlands. We've been warned that would be coming, and we need to, as well as all the other things we need to protect in the Hawkesbury, I believe that is the area under immediate threat, and we need to go in.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks for that, Pete. That's brilliant. Okay, so look, we'll move on now to the BLORCAG question. So basically, how will you work with fellow councillors to ensure that any future changes, any developments in our area improves disaster resilience and livability while maintaining the unique and important characteristics that we all take for granted here of rural amenity, agriculture, community and heritage? So Mary, if I could ask you if you could answer that one first, please.
Yes, of course you can ask me that. It's all about balance. That's what it's all about. So we can only have growth and development where it's sustainable and where it's adequately supported by infrastructure, by services, where it's not going to give rise to major land use conflict between different land uses, and where it won't impact our environment detrimentally. So we're going to have to return to place-based planning into the future, even though the major party councillors voted to ignore a whole lot of work that's done around that. But it's the future of how we have to plan. So we simply can't lose greenfield areas and agricultural land to inappropriate development. We're so constrained by the floodplain, by fire, by national park. We've got large areas that have no reticulated sewer or water. We have to limit development in areas that cannot sustain it. So we're not required by the state government to deliver big housing targets, and we must value the agricultural land and the various unique qualities we've got. On top of that, we've got to push for our controls to be strong enough to ensure we utilise the latest building methods and materials to make it as emissions free and to move towards what is modern housing, what is modern development, and to only have things that we can that are sustainable into the future.
Okay, that's good. Thank you for that. Nathan, could you give us your take on it?
Yes, it's difficult to pass this question as whether it's a question about development generally or whether it's about disaster resilience specifically. So I'll give it an honest go. My view is that council has a particular role to be a bulwark. As the tier of government that's closest to the people, then, you know, when development comes marching towards us, it's important that we stand up so that we're not ridden over roughshod. So the Northwest Growth Sector is at our door, and there is indeed intense pressure for new areas of greenfield to be opened up for future subdivision. Now, I'm on the record as opposing that. I think Sydney has, our area particularly has some of the most wonderful remaining agricultural land in the Sydney metropolitan area. We also have rare and precious stands of remnant Cumberland woodland, and if we don't speak up for them, who will? In terms of disaster resilience, I mean, to give one example, flooding. The Resilient Valley Resilient Community Study in 2017 laid out a multi-pronged strategy. People tend to focus, indeed obsess, over flood mitigation, capital works for flood mitigation, but the thing is, it also includes flood evacuation routes, it includes flood height planning controls, it means community education, and a whole heap of other things that build the social capital of our community so that we can weather disasters when they come. And of course, we've had a triple whammy of quite epic disasters in three.
You're muted.
Sorry, got an open thing. That's good. Thanks for that, Nathan. Actually, Nathan, one thing I did want to ask you, which we didn't really cover, and somebody's made the point to me, going back to the preferences thing, who are you preferencing? So you're on mute there still. You're on mute there, Nathan.
Here we go. Firstly,
there we go. Good.
I'll be succinct. Firstly, I am neither giving nor receiving preferences to the Liberal Party. Secondly, I entered into an arrangement with the Shooters, Fishers, Farmers and the Small Business Party for a preferencing arrangement. But like the others, I emphasise that because we can't hand out how to votes, the idea of preference swaps is almost farcical, and they're only a recommendation, and I'm quite sure that people will keep their own counsel and should number as many squares as possible.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's good stuff. Now, I just wanted to mention to all of you candidates as well that I've just been told you can also type an answer in the Q&A section for any asked questions if you want as well. I know we're talking it through, but if you feel you want to add anything in, you can do that. There you go. Now, on this question then, Pete, if I could ask you for your thoughts about working with councillors about development and how it fits in with our natural amenities.
This is a really good question because we know some major parties have a pro-development agenda, and we've seen that approaching us from the Hills area. I don't believe that the Hawkesbury is the place for large-scale urban development. But while a halt on all development's unrealistic, we need strategic place-based planning, which was one of the goals of the Courage on Kermont strategy, which council sought to see if it was viable to have that applied to the whole LGA, where ecology, biodiversity, fire, views and vistas, everything comes into what can and can't be done on any particular spot, and stops the large-scale cookie-cutter hit-and-run development that we see at Marsden Park and Schofields and Riverston. So I think we need to stop that. We need to protect our agricultural lands and look after the Hawkesbury through careful planning, not just open slather like we see coming towards us. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. That's great. Brilliant. Thanks for that. Danielle, could you give us your take on it, please?
Sure. This isn't an either or. We don't. These things are inextricably linked. Our resilience and the livability of the area depend on the protection of these attributes: the rural amenity, agriculture, community heritage. They're what makes us. And particularly our community is what makes us more resilient, and we've seen that through fire and flood and COVID. It's the bonds of our community that have made us a more resilient community through this. What we need though is a better focus on the retention of these things through stronger planning documents. We've done quite a lot of that in this council, place-based planning, and that means asking the community what we all want in these places. And better compliance. And we've got this attitude in the Hawkesbury that compliance is inconvenient and that you should be able to do whatever you want to do, and that putting in a plan is just red and green tape, and that should go away. It's not red and green tape, it's the law. It's there to protect not only the environment but everyone else's amenity. We don't need new greenfield developments. We shouldn't have any more urban sprawl, and our agricultural lands have to be protected. But we can only do this if we work together effectively, rather than arguing and dividing along party lines.
Excellent. Thank you. That's really good. Thanks very much. Shane, could you give us your take on it as well?
Yep. I think it's about balance. I'm very concerned about large-scale development in the area, always have been. I mean, we don't want to see a sea of red roofs across the Hawkesbury creating heat. And I've noticed the difference over the years, a change in the weather pattern. Like our rain seems to break up as it comes over the mountain now and goes south and goes north around the Hawkesbury. We don't get as much rainfall on our farmlands as we used to. And I think it's about the community standing together on what we want and what we need in the Hawkesbury on the development respect. And I also think that we should be lobbying together for more funding for disaster preparedness. I mean, it's something we're going to always have to deal with. Where the bush meets the river, we're always going to have floods and we're always going to have fire.
Yeah, that's good. Thanks for that. That's good. So, Tim, if you could give us your take on it.
No worries. So I'm going to echo a lot of what other people have said already, in that our group agrees on a really similar goal, which is sustainability when it comes to development, at least. And as a resident of Bilpin, living on the Bellsline Road, I understand and see the pressures that come from development in the Hawkesbury. I've also been witness to the Hawkesbury being forgotten by state and federal governments when it comes to bushfire recovery money. So, building our disaster resilience requires knowing where to spend the money. So, we should have more water storage facilities for firefighters to access, for example. And so I think the community needs better protection, and Group F will work with other councillors to get it.
There we go, back again. That's good. Thanks for that, Tim. That's brilliant. Preeti, if you could give us your take on it, that would be brilliant.
So I will be working closely with my colleagues, and I will aim to achieve a development in accordance with the Hawkesbury Development Control Plan. because this development control plan, it provides for guidelines for development which meet the needs of our communities and expectations, and it addresses the key environmental planning issues within the Hawkesbury LGA. And in addition to that, I will ensure that local community is involved throughout the process. We need to have community feedback, and it should be taken into account. There should be transparency in council decision-making processes. And I will engage in open, clear, and communication between the decision makers and the community.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, thank you for that. Brilliant. Good stuff. Okay, what we'll do then is move on to the next one here. So question 4. This is from North Richmond and Districts Community Action Association, so the NRDCAA. And here's their question here, and they've got some background to it. They note that the Hawkesbury Community Strategic Plan for 2017 to 2036 at page 4, so very specific here, under our values says, we value open and clear communication, we listen to the contribution of every individual, we value differences in people and their perspective. In light of that statement, can each candidate advise whether they will commit to a facilitated public meeting for affected ratepayers to hear an explanation, we're getting there folks, of the costs and charges associated with sullage pump out systems and update on what council are doing regarding alternative systems. So just for people watching this who may have got a bit lost there, basically what we're talking about here is pump out systems. Around about 100 people in Hawkesbury have got these systems. They're hugely expensive for the people who have them. That the charge gets added to their rates bill. And so I guess what they want to know here is what is going to happen about this and how it's going to be sorted out. So if we could ask Nathan about this one first. Nathan, what are your views on it?
My apologies. I thought you were coming to me last. I was going from the run sheet. But I will.
Oh, have I mixed it up again? Let me just have a check of my.
I'm happy to speak.
I think I probably. I'm sorry. I have. Pete Reynolds first. Sorry, Nathan.
Okay. Let me just work out where we were. I find it really. It's telling that we have a community organisation asking councillors to commit to meet with the community. There's a really, really big problem when a community group has to ask that question. We take an oath to represent the community. How can you represent the community unless you bloody listen to them? I mean, direct communication is essential. It's so easy to dismiss community concerns if you never meet with them. And that's what we've seen happen in the past. Absolutely support public meetings to address issues, and especially pump out. I lived at Bower Mountain for over 30 years, was on pump out. Technology is ramping up as far as waste disposal goes, and we really need to get on the ball and get on the game and not get on the game. That's anyway. Get our act together, because I think that staff have kind of let us down in a way there in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pete. That's good. Danielle, what's your sort of take on this one?
Thanks. Look, as anyone who has seen me over the last decade knows, I'm more than happy to stand up in front of a public meeting and talk and listen. And this is long overdue, this issue. Yeah, this was a bad Band-Aid solution. And underneath the sore is really festering. You know, we had pump out in Wilberforce for a long time. We were on a septic, but my neighbours had pump out. It's incredibly costly, between $2,500 and $5,000 and over $5,000 a year. Imagine that added to your rates. That's huge. To have a truck drive up to the top of the mountain, suck your poo out, and drive it all the way back to Eastern Creek. I mean, this was dodgy in the 1950s. It's not feasible in this day and age. We have to come up with a better solution. I think it's going to be a combination of some individual units and perhaps a community unit treatment works, it would give you the water back. Say, and in Bowen Mountain, that's gold because you're on tank water. It would allow you to have a damper environment in a bushfire zone, and it would save you water cartage as well. I think we can come up with a really winnable solution here.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for that. Shane, what do you think about this one? It's obviously an issue for a lot of people.
I used to live in Currajong Heights, so we had pump out, and it is expensive. And there's also associated dramas that go along with a pump out system. Look, I will definitely be pushing for greater community group interaction with council. I was part of the Hikes Action Group back in 2000. And way back then, we did have a good rapport with some council members, and we got a few things done for the Heights up there at the time. I mean, that's 20 years ago now, and it's a shame that the council's sort of gone away from community interaction. I think it's very important. But I will be pushing for more interaction and transparency, and I will be trying to look at what other options there are and what we can do for the people in that situation.
Yeah, thanks. That's good. Thank you. Tim, can you give us your view on it?
Sure. So I think that Group F would happily commit to having a public meeting or Q&A on the matter of sewage pump out systems and their costs, as well as seeking out sustainable alternatives for taxpayers. The current system is unfair and costly as well. For example, support putting more pressure on the utility water to provide for the Hawkesbury and to find solutions to reduce the burden on the affected community. So you're muted, Tony.
Yeah, I know. There we go. Look, it's not in the question, but I think one of the issues here is that it's all very well having meetings, not that we have had any meetings, which is a big issue, but people want answers and people also want to save money. That's the big thing at the end of the day. I'll just put that one out there. But Preeti, what do you reckon about this one? What do you think should be done?
Look, I have a business in Freeman's Reach, and this is an issue there as well, which I personally face. It's expensive, it's a nuisance, and sometimes I wonder whether what I'm getting charged, is that correct, or is it there's something going on there? I mean, I doubt it myself. And there's no way to find out. You have to get a plumber or someone to stand there and watch, or assess it or give a report. I mean, it's a really big nuisance. It's very expensive. I would be so happy to find an alternative, and there is an alternative, but it's expensive again. And so yeah, it is a very big issue, and it is personal to me. So, yeah.
I think we've all got our pump out stories, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would like to, I commit to facilitating public meetings and keep people informed if there is anything that could be done. And yeah, I look forward to finding an
alternative. No, that's really good.
Cheaper. Yeah.
Excellent. That's good. Thank you for that. And yeah, Mary, if you could give your views on it, that would be great.
Thank you, Tony. And as I think you know, that I in fact moved a motion to have public meetings, to have a public forum, to answer the community, to tell them what we were doing. And it was not supported by the Liberal and Labor councillors, which was quite a slap in the face to the people that it impacted. I'm a big proponent of town meetings. When I was mayor, we commenced going out to the public for town meetings. I think that the situation around Sullage is indicative of what happens when you put residential residential development in areas where it's not supported by proper services. You've got small building blocks that aren't big enough to have on-site effluent disposal, so they're reliant on pump out. As less people are on the pump out system, the cost goes up for people, and there's very many opportunities to look at other solutions such as retrofitting houses. If you've seen Michael Mobbs' sustainable house in Chippendale, you will know completely what it's like to be off-grid for everything. And so there's really feasible solutions, and we have to look into them. It's a hard conversation because it's going to cost people at some point to either retrofit, but they cannot keep this model because the price is going up every single year. So it's unsustainable for people. So we've got to have a good hard look at it as soon as possible. Has Tony frozen, or is he stunned by what I said?
I think he's moved by what you said. Tony, have we lost you?
I think he's frozen. Tony may need to bow out and then come back in.
Yeah.
Have you tried turning it off and then on again?
Tony's obviously at Bowen Mountain.
It was the thought of retrofitting himself. That's what did it.
The freeze situation here, folks.
Oh, you're back.
We'll just wait a little minute and see if it picks itself up again. There we go.
Tony, we can...
Can anybody hear me?
And we can see you.
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's try and carry on. It's just frozen up a bit here. But Nathan, if you give us your views on the pump out situation, if you would, and also what you think about public meeting or any meeting for that matter about this.
Look, it's not that I'm unsympathetic to the people at Bowen Mountain, for example, who are paying $4,000 a year for their sewage pump out. This is in addition to their, elevated rates bill. And the cruelest irony is that when the Three Towns sewerage scheme kicked in, we lost the economies of scale that made this even mildly affordable. I mean, it's never been properly affordable for landowners, and it's becoming more acute because the service has to service a smaller number of properties. The reason that I opposed the Deputy Mayor's motion at the time was because I think it's inappropriate to grandstand or soapbox on these issues and to raise people's expectations when we all know that there can be no solution without state government buy-in. We know that the Blue Mountains Council next door enjoys a degree of subsidy for their sewage pump out. I think we should be able to do the same. But council by itself cannot come up with a solution. We can continue to apply pressure to the state government, and I'm all for that. But without state government buy-in, all we're doing is hopefully raising people's expectations.
Yeah, fair enough. Look, I think that's a good point you make there. But I would just say, and because there is a lot of anger in the community about this, I would say that it took a year to get a report from council, well over a year actually, about 18 months, to get a report from council, which you folks have just recently had, about the situation, which seems ludicrous for people. Anyway, I'll just put that one out there.
You after a follow-up, or is that addressed to me?
No. Look, I think it's just worth putting it out there. I think people are obviously very concerned about it. It takes so long to get a report from council about something that is pretty important to a lot of people. There we are. The councillors who can solve that problem, well, they'll be getting people's votes, I guess.
Tony, if I could add a coda, I might mention that we can provide relief to people through things like the inspection regime, and we can provide some discount to people on their septic or sewage inspections, whereas at the moment we pay charge through the nose.
Yes, and also inspections go up every single year. That's the other issue. But anyway, we'll move on. Now, there's a long question here from Community Action for Windsor Bridge folks, Corb. But look, basically they're saying here, and I won't read the whole thing out, I think, but they're saying it's become standard practice for the Liberal Party to attack community groups who oppose their decisions by dismissing their concerns as being political and attacking their credibility, all to avoid addressing the genuine concerns they have regarding the government's plans. Okay, that's fair enough. That's a statement, obviously, more than a question. Let's get down to the question in this. Not every decision you make will be popular with all your constituents. How will you ensure you will deal with the community with respect and as a community leader to ensure your actions will unite a community still suffering from the actions of a political party. I suppose, look, most people know the background to this. Windsor Bridge, it went on for years, went on for a decade or more, and it caused a lot of angst in the community. So basically what we're talking about here is how are you going to ensure that the community is dealt with respectfully when there are any issues, basically. So Danielle, if I can ask you that one first, that would be good.
Sure. So look, it's a fundamental tenet of free speech that everyone's entitled to an opinion. But ideally that opinion should be based on evidence and facts. But so should our decisions as a council and as councillors. You can disagree with somebody without being disrespectful. We've had some real low points in this council term where people haven't agreed with some of the stuff that's come before us in the chamber. And instead of dealing with that in the chamber, having the debate, making the decision and moving on to the next issue, because it's not like we're short on issues to deal with. People have then taken those issues to social media and used that as a platform. We've had, so particular low points for me have been the debate around marriage equality, which was appalling, and the disgraceful behaviour around the decision to make only 4 toilets all gender toilets, which is basically standard across New South Wales 3 years on. To see that post appear last week on a Liberal Party Facebook page trying to dredge up that crap again made me sick. That caused so much hurt and pain in our community. The people who prosecuted that line should frankly be ashamed of themselves. 4 signs on toilets, really? Bushfires, animal shelter, blaming the Greens for the bushfires, that was a particular low point. Empathy, respect and grace are really important aspects of leadership. We demand it of our staff, we should demand it of ourselves as well.
Excellent, thank you. That's good, that's good. Okay, now Shane, what's your sort of view on this? So basically about ensuring your actions will unite a community.
Yeah, look, I think it's becoming common amongst major parties and all levels of government. I think elected members have forgotten that their job is to represent the people under the Westminster system. I think it's easy for me because I've always been an active member of the community. I think we need to push for active engagement with community members. There's a lot of community groups out there. Why aren't we liaising more with their members? We can tell them what we can work with and what we can't work with. If they contribute to the decision, there might be less angst in what we can do and what we can't do. Nothing changes if nothing changes. We really have to start working with the community.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for that. Tim, would you like to have a go at this one?
Yes, thanks, Tony. So first and foremost, I'd just like to extend my apologies to the Community Action for Windsor Bridge. I think it's terrible that your members had to face humiliation and derision from your elected officials. Look, the way I was raised, I treat people with respect, and I listen to others knowing that there's always something new to learn. I think it's important that the Hawkesbury is united as a people. I think it's necessary that councillors consult with their community and in an honest and open way. I'm really grateful to be in a position where I can get to know the people I live with, and I have the chance to bring more goodness to their lives.
Good one. Excellent. Thanks for that. Preeti, could you give us your views?
Yes, Tony. One of my objectives is to work towards building a united community. So I would like to see more respect. I would like to see more patience in people. If a situation comes where, according to the question, where there's an issue and how I'm going to be uniting the community, well, I will be prepared and give my time to listen to what they have to say. I will defend their rights to make submissions or to even protest against a decision a particular decision that they may not agree with. And I will refrain from belittling any organization or individual. I will not be making any derogatory remarks or disparaging comments in relation to any person or organisation, neither by social media, in person, or by any other means. That's all.
That's good. Yeah, thank you for that. That's good. Yeah, the social media thing is certainly an issue, isn't it? You know, for everybody, that's for sure. Nathan, reckon about this?
Look, I want to draw a really sharp distinction between my approach to this and some of those with whom I am frequently grouped. I'm not a hater. When Corb were passionately advocating in Thompson Square for what they felt was a just cause, I couldn't bring myself to other them. I went down and I talked to them. I've got good friends amongst that crowd, people that I've known all my life, and I chatted and I understood why they held a concern about the heritage of that area. Now, I didn't agree with them on every point, and I also made the point to them in a friendly way that I felt that their cause had been hijacked by carpetbaggers who didn't particularly care for the cause but wanted to whipping post to beat the Liberal Party with. And I think what's happening with the new bridge is a similar situation. But it is about respect. It's about inclusiveness. I'm a teacher by vocation, so I like to listen and I like to understand why people think that the way they do. That's my professional vocation. And, you know, I think respect and courtesy get us a very long way. I don't engage in the politics of hate. Unfortunately, I know people who do.
Thanks for that. And Mary, sorry, once again, I missed you out there. It's because they put you on the same line as John Ross there. So if you could give me your views on it.
It would be unusual. I would be on the same line as John Ross. I think that, you know, I, as a decision maker, I always stand by the decisions I make. I had to make, when I was in the mayoral position, some very hard decisions. I did not ever shy away from them. I went out to the community. I faced the community. I had to face them with a rate rise. I was attacked. I was physically attacked. If it wasn't for the support of people like Councillor Wheeler there with me and Councillor Reynolds out at the Oakville, at a thing at Oakville, I could have been harmed. I think that there's no place for that. I will always stand up for what I have made a decision about and justify that, and I always have. I was a member of Corb. I was incredibly bullied to the point that I had to take legal action because of the fabricated rubbish that certain pages and that were affiliated with the Liberal Party wrote about me, and I had to take action about that. In terms of building, we started our term off very cohesive. It was only when some people didn't like certain decisions and they didn't like the bridge going ahead that there was a change in the dynamic in council. We had started off in a very collaborative and a very united way, and that has all fallen apart over the last couple of years.
Thank you for that. Yes, I think everybody in the community would want to see cohesion and, you know, people getting on. I mean, it's a good community, as we saw during the floods when everybody pulled together. So maybe everybody should stop and think about that. Pete, what's your take on it?
Well, this one's pretty close to the bone, Tony. I'd just like to point out to people that the Corb executive consisted of a Liberal member, a local Liberal member of some 50 years of the party who's resigned. It consisted of an advisor to Premier Nick Greiner. It consisted of a secretary to Prime Minister William McMahon and a president of the Mossman Young Lids. They were the people on Corb that the Lids were attacking as some kind of leftist, greeny, socialist cult or whatever. We also know the major hate page against Corb was created and maintained by Hawkesbury Liberals. We know that. We know it. And a lot of the community now standing up, and the community awareness standing up and creating noise, like we're seeing at North Richmond now, is a pure byproduct of the Hawkesbury Liberals refusing to even listen to people. We had one local Liberal, an MP, saying, "I will not meet with you now, not ever," just asking to meet. Now, if this is everything that a council should not be. A council is here to represent the people and to listen to them, regardless of any political point of view. And if you can't do that, you don't deserve to be on council. Community first, politics after. If you can't do that, get out of the way.
Good. Thanks for that, Pete. That's good. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to the next one here. Hawkesbury Ratepayers and Residents Association, so the HRA, their question is, would you work to scrap the current, as they call it, cloistered committee system and restore community involvement in committees and commit to more involvement of the community in tangible projects, such as the current $18 million livability project, the vision for which has been determined by corporate consultants, they say. Look, a bit of a background for people on this. There was a big fight in council during the year, Labour and Liberal voting together to push through a new committee system, which independents and Greens councillors didn't agree with, and that obviously was, a bit of a battle on there. So let's have a bit of a look at that and how that might be solved. So Shane, what's your sort of take on this one?
Have you got me?
Yeah, got you there. That's it. Good stuff.
Simply, I want to say yes. And to be honest, my vision incorporates community interaction with council. Major parties are starting to use the word community consultation, yet they still struggle with the meaning because they're not doing any. People got to realise it's your council, it's the community's council. It's not the council of regularly elected members. If they're not listening to the people, we have to start giving them a miss. You know, if you can't not vote for your party, maybe give them a 2 and vote for someone that's going to start talking to the people. And if they've got to start spending money in the community, I think community members need to stay very close to elected members to make sure they do the right things. We seem to have a bad habit with elected members not exactly doing what's best for the community when we get some funding.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. That's a really, really good answer to that, and with some sort of fresh insight there for sure. Tim, what do you reckon about this?
Thanks, Tony. So since we're discussing the Hawkesbury Livability Project, I'd like to thank Councillor Danielle Wheeler, who headed the Town Centre's Master Plan Working Group, for her role in delivering the project. I would like to see more community involvement in council projects. To my knowledge, there were around 400 responses to 2 community surveys for that, and I think we can just do better. It's not only important that people have access to be involved, but that we actively encourage it. So I think that Group F would like to fund more community groups and organisations so they have the power to act on the issues that we all care about, whether it's climate change or development or agriculture.
Okay, that's good. Thanks for that. And Preeti, can you give us your thoughts on it?
Again, it boils down to community engagement and transparency and accountability. I feel that this is a great project. I support the project. It's got a great potential, but whoever I speak to, they say they are not aware of it or they don't know what's going to happen. So it's just that it will be better for us all to have that sense of what's going on in the community, so that people feel involved, people feel that they're important, because whatever is going to be impacting on the community, whatever project it is, it should be across people. So that's all it is it is a good project, but yes, it is not across everyone.
But how would you think about including the community more in some of these decisions then? I mean, the thing is that when committees had members of the public on them, there was arguably more representation. Obviously, it's argued now by many or some that there isn't. But it's all about consultation with the community, isn't it? How would you make that better?
Well, make it a common knowledge. I mean, we can have public forums, we can have meetings, we can have workshops. Not everyone is, technology savvy. People like face-to-face engagement. People like to read newspaper. There's all different people, different backgrounds, age groups. So we will have to cater for all, because everyone makes our community. It's not just one particular age group. So we will have to invest in processes which aim to provide information for all different community members and all different age groups by the way of, as I said, workshops or information sessions or newspaper articles.
Yeah, good. Okay, now that is good. That's good. Thank you for that. Mary, what's your view on this?
Well, as everyone would have known who saw a council meeting, I vehemently opposed the removal of community members from the committees. The new committee system has been a total failure. It's achieved absolutely nothing. There's been nothing achieved from it. And so we've wasted well over a year of not having community input. There was a replacement committee for the Access and Inclusion and Human Services Committee, and it hasn't had a single meeting. So that means that those voices of people with lived experience in the welfare areas, in the areas around disability, they have not had a voice in our council. There has been nothing done. There has not been one thing done about it, and that to me is appalling. On our People Not Parties website, we have a couple of documents around community engagement, which is about educating and organising political public forums around these sorts of things, as well as what we can be doing. So far we've only done the access and inclusion one, but about how we can revitalise the committee system to include that expertise from the community, and so that we embed that within our decision making, so that it isn't a separate thing, but it's part of all our planning, part of all our documentation, and that's how we come together, and that's how we hear the voices of our people.
That's good. Thank you. Thank you. Now, Nathan, you were one of the people, obviously, as a Liberal councillor, who voted for the new the new committee structure along with Labor. Do you think it has been a success?
Look, I termed it an experiment at the time. And in terms of engaging with the community, I mean, I'd like to make the claim that I've done more than any other councillor to engage in ways that nobody else has even attempted. I mean, I make videos, I write long-form pieces, I engage with social media. Every time I undertake an interview in the media, it goes out there. And to inform people is at the core of my approach to public service. If it's an experiment at the moment, I'd have to say that it's failing, but it's not failing for the reasons that others wish to put forward. When we changed our committee structure, 6 of those councillors, in a fit of pique, refused to participate in those revamped committees, even though the invitation was there for them to do so. So, you know, I'm focused on committees that don't unnecessarily consume staff time and that actually deliver product. And I've lost count of the working groups or committees that were talk fests and never delivered product that was actionable by the chamber to drive particular issues forward. I am quite open to looking at this committee structure again in the new term if I'm able to be returned, and I may take a different view than I've done previously.
Okay, no, fair enough. That's good. Thank you for that. Pete Reynolds, what's your view on this?
First of all, a fit of pique.
Yes.
A fit of bloody pique. It's not wanting to be a part of a committee. The reason we didn't want to be a part of your so-called committee system was because it's the height of arrogance. I mean, it's the height of political arrogance to actually say only elected people deserve a vote. It's a bloody committee. It's a community committee. There's so much knowledge and wisdom there. It's worked through time that you have advisory committees made up of community members, and then their resolutions come to council and you can say yay or nay. To wipe them out at the beginning is a disgrace, and I don't see how you can support it. The $18 million livability project was the result of lobbying and hard work of Mary Lyons Bucket when she was mayor, and the former and much loved general manager Peter Conroy, who over 12 months further on, we still have not been told why he agreed to resign. Agreed to resign is political speak for knifed.
Okay.
Now,
well, we'll need to. Sorry, Pete. We'll need to begin to wrap it up there. I mean, look, I think the point is about all of this that I'm kind of guessing here, but I think the community would like to see the council all work together on issues as much as they can. But look, that's just my take on it. Danielle, what do you reckon about this?
So I've been lucky enough to chair the really successful and actually only surviving advisory committee, the Heritage Advisory Committee. And despite the claims of some councillors, really the Heritage Committee survived because its members fought. They came and addressed council, and their input and work was undeniable. Tens of thousands of dollars of free work, free input and expertise from these committees thrown away, in a single council meeting. It's clear the experiment has failed and the outcomes are exactly as we predicted. I think it was a mistake to abandon the Town Centres Working Group before we had completed the rollout of the livability funding. That should have continued, and in fact it should have been beefed up. COVID has made consultation difficult. It's harder to meet in a space, but what it's done is made it different. It's not impossible to meet. It's allowed us to do some targeted engagement, and we should. But when we meet in these spaces, we need to ask who is here, and then we need to ask who isn't here, and we need to fill those gaps. On the Heritage Advisory Committee, we acknowledged that we had a gap. We didn't have a First Nations representative. We fixed that in the Constitution. What we cannot replace as elected councillors, we are a fairly privileged lot. You get to run for council if you can afford to live on 24 grand a year. Not many people can't do that. We cannot replace the lived experience of people with disabilities, ageing, dementia, homelessness, and these are the people that we need to be hearing from in these committees on a level playing field with voting rights and the capacity to speak when they want to, not when a Zoom link allows them to.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you for that. That's really good. Now, look, those are the questions that we've put forward. I'm told that the Zoom link is soon. I'm going to let me just have a look at this. We're about to lose the Zoom link, so we need to wrap it up now, unfortunately. But look, I think this has been really valuable, and it's given the public who have been watching this plenty to think about. And I think the time you've given, you folks, to this is really appreciated. So thank you very much for that. That's brilliant.
Tony, can I just jump in and say there's a whole lot of Q&A questions that we haven't got to. I'm on an iPad, so typing is really slow for me and I can't answer them all at once. Is there somewhere we can put them that we can come back to them if we've got time in between standing on pre-poll?
Yeah, so I've been told that, we could suggest that the questions be published on the forum page, so the Facebook page, and then candidates can answer them there. So we can do that. I think that would be a good idea, if you're happy to do that.
That would be great.
Can they put them individually as each question so that they're not all on one post? So each question separately, then people answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we've got some good questions from people in the community, and it'd be great to be able to engage with them. So we'll do that, and then when you've got time, I know you're all really busy, obviously at the moment, but when you've got time, yes, if you can come on and do that, that'd be brilliant.
Just to jump in over the top, and I apologise, Tony. However, we do have a paid account, and we're trying to work out if we can continue, at the very least, the Q&A function on the existing webinar or Zoom account that we have. So perhaps if people would like to stay on and answer and ask questions of the candidates in that Q&A dialogue box, that would be terrific. And what we can resolve now, and then what we can't resolve now, we can always then take over to other platforms later on.
How does that sound, folks?
Yep, no problem, Tony. Yep.
Okay, good. Look, we'll certainly do the questions on the forum page. We'll do that anyway, and that because we've got some really good questions. And if you've got time to do that, that's good. And we'll see how we go with the webinar thing as well, and extending that. But look, thanks for your time with it, because, as I say, I think it's been really valuable for people, and you certainly answered a lot of the questions. Also, it gives people an insight into you as individuals and as candidates, which is invaluable. So it's really good.
It's been a privilege to participate. Thank you, Tony, for your excellent moderation when you weren't on mute.
Well, it's been a bit dodgy, hasn't it, at times, Nathan? Let's be honest. But there we are.
Thanks, Tony.
I think it's been good.
Having the ability to mute Pete Reynolds is something that I've always wanted, though, so I was quite envious of that.
Oi,
If only it worked in real life.
Not just Pete Reynolds.
what? Hey, watermelons? Okay, goodbye. Thanks, Tony. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tony,
Thank
and thanks,
you.
everyone. Good luck. See you at pre-poll.
Yep. Night.
Excellent.
I think that I didn't hear a word because I don't want to.
Hello, team.